them to be. And yet, despite those differences, the GNU partners have chosen to work together for the common good of all South Africans. It is a government of national unity that we will continue in our mission to drive rapid, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, to create a more just society by tackling some of the huge challenges that our country faces, some of which are a legacy of our past, and some of which are our own doing, but some of which we have to face with a great deal of courage and bravery. We have to reduce the cost of living of our people. We also have to build state capacity and make sure that our state is able to deliver on the promise that we gave our people. And we also have to strengthen our law enforcement agencies, as we can see that they are in need of great overhaul. But we also have another overriding task, which is to deepen social cohesion and nation building.
Order. Sorry, Mr. President. Honorable Ronaldo, please mute.
We are still a young nation. Therefore, we have to continue taking care to build this nation. There are those, including in this House, who will assert that democracy does not put food on the table, that the Constitution cannot be worn or be put on anybody's back, and it cannot be driven or lived in. Yet they choose to lose sight of the fact that in the context of democratic backsliding across the world, South Africa stands tall amongst many nations as a country that upholds and protects and advances the rights of our people. We are counted as amongst the few who have the type of constitution that we have that upholds our people's rights, where our people are able to even challenge government and take government to court and hope to win, and at times they win. That is not easily allowed in many other countries, but that is what should make us proud to be South Africans. Yesterday, Honorable Hlophe gave a laundry list of everything that is wrong in this country. We are alive to the many challenges that we face. At the same time, we should not lose sight of the fact that this democracy, only 31 years old, has made great progress in improving the quality of life of its citizens. Not to the level we want, but it has improved the life of its citizens. We still have a long way to go to give our people the type of life that they deserve. Some countries in the world have democracies dating back hundreds of years, and some even thousands of years. Our democracy, by comparison, is still very young. Those who decry the allegedly scant progress that we have made wish us to discount the millions of homes that have been electrified. As one flies across many parts of the world, including our own continent, you actually see that South Africa is able to distinguish itself from many other countries when you fly at night. And you see the electrification that has happened in this country. The clean water that is in our communities where there was once none. And we decry the fact that some of the taps have run dry, but we now are improving the infrastructure that will make sure that those taps and those pipes do have water. We now know what needs to be done. And of course, what remains is that it must be done. Yes, the public housing that we have built for the indigent runs into millions, and the free basic services that we provide to society's most vulnerable is something that we need to take account of. Some wish us to discount the more than 600,000 learners who passed their matric exams last year, the highest recorded pass rate in our country's democratic and, may I say, history. We have done it during this administration. Now, they even wish us to discount the fact that more than 1.2 million young South Africans who are being supported to further their studies by the National Students Financial Aid Scheme. They wish us to discount also the testimony, the brilliant testimony that was delivered here by Honorable Mkutu, who spoke with such eloquence in this House yesterday, exactly where I'm standing. This honorable member told us how he is a direct product of the transformative interventions that this government has taken. And that transformative journey started when he was young, when he was at school, right through his academic life, and up to qualifying as an industrial engineer, university graduate. And today he stands as a member of parliament at a very young age. This would have been unheard of. We want many more. Honorable member asks how many. Yes, we want all of them.
Millions.
We want
To deliver.
all of them.
Order, honorable member.
To have the same opportunity that Honorable Mkutu had. And we are on the path of ensuring that that happens. The critics of our democratic wish us to ignore, even not pay attention to the fact that today.
Mr. President, excuse me if you can take a seat. Honorable members on the platform, can you please not interject when the member is on the podium such that you disturb the flow of their speech? Honorable member, what's the point of order?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The honorable member on the virtual platform shows a picture of her wearing her party regalia with the logo on. That is unparliamentary. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. It is indeed on the rules, honorable member. We will address that and we'll address those with the chief whips of various parties. Mr. President, you can proceed.
So our detractors wish us also to disregard and ignore the fact that we've started a process that enables workers to become shareholders in the companies that they work for. This never used to be the case before. What was the case was share options would be given to the top executives of companies, and they would earn enormously big salaries. Now we've started a process where it cascades down to the ordinary workers of our country.
Thank you, EFF.
Can I ask Honorable Member Mathis to actually refrain? I'm cautioning you. Following that, I would ask the IT to remove you. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, they seem to be quite enjoying what I am saying. So that in itself is good because they are paying attention. We are supposed also to discount the millions of hectares of land that has also been restored to communities. And the many beneficiaries who would have chosen that they would rather take cash rather than the land that they were dispossessed of. These are some of the fruits of our young democracy, the self-same democracy that the people of South Africa continue to believe in, have faith in, and expect us to advance in both word and in deed. That the majority of South Africans are committed to the fundamental principles of our Constitution confers a heavy responsibility on all of us and the Government of National Unity. It imposes that responsibility, and we must make sure that they retain that faith. It requires that we work as a collective to implement our strategic priorities of inclusive growth, job creation, reducing poverty and the high cost of living, and to work together to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. I can assure the Honorable Mulder that we will not dismiss the proposals put forward by the Freedom Front Plus to ensure that all South Africans progress economically, as he said. We will engage with the Freedom Front Plus and take on their proposals and examine them, and we will do so critically. Where we disagree, we will say so. And it does not mean that when we disagree, we are abandoning the key principles of our Constitution. Honorable Mulder referred to the Carnegie Report, which was published in 1939 or so, and even said 7 years before the National Party won their elections. And this report was inaugurated to look into the problem of the poor whites. And that, I would say, Honorable Mulder, is not a useful guide, because we confront challenges of a democratic South Africa. The findings and the recommendations of the Carnegie Report were influential in the development of apartheid. The commission, that is the Carnegie Report, sought to uplift the conditions of poor whites, but at the expense of black people. At the expense. Now, the issue of poor whites had become a huge problem in the 30s. It had become a huge problem. It was discussed in church, the Dutch Reformed Church. It was discussed in the universities. It was discussed in the state. And it was felt that something had to be done about the problem of poor whites. They could not accept the fact that white people in the urban areas had become part of the proletariat. They couldn't countenance the fact that white people had become poor, like black people. And they even said, we cannot ever see ourselves being equal to these blacks. And they had become poor, Honorable Mulder, as you may recall, because they had been dispossessed of their land. During the Second Anglo-Boer War, Afrikaners in the main really suffered at the brunt of that war. They had become displaced, their land had been dispossessed, and they had become truly poor. But of course, they only focused on themselves and forgot that there were other citizens in the country. So what did they do? Flowing from that report, they then decided that we've got to set up a social welfare system that will advance the interests of white people. And they did. They set up institutions that were aimed at advancing the interests of white people, so that white people should never, ever be at the same level as black people. They inaugurated laws in this parliament, somewhere in this precinct, to make sure that black people are kept at a lower level, because they couldn't see themselves as being equal. The superiority complex was just too huge for them not to want to see white people being ordinary workers. So laws were passed to give them what? Opportunities, so that they could have better outcomes in their lives. There was no separation between opportunity and outcomes. Today, when black people talk about being given opportunities so that their outcomes can be better, this is seen as racist. And this is hypocrisy at its worst. It is. And yet, what was done following the Carnegie report was itself inherently racist. And what we seek today is to ensure that the disparity between resources devoted to black people and to white people are equalized. You look, for instance, at the school system. The school system for white people was far better than it was for black people. More was spent on social grants, housing, agricultural support, and social services for white people. Please let us not deny that that happened in this country, because we will be lying to ourselves. What we should now do is to say, what are we going to do to correct that imbalance that in some ways, not completely, was kick-started by the Carnegie report recommendations? Honorable Mulder, the huge racial disparities we see in access to wealth and opportunities in our country were the consequence of the aid that was provided by the state to white people. Now you say, and I forgot your speech because you say it in Afrikaans, you say, ons het dit self gedoen. No, it's not true. White people are where they are because the state helped them. And that is what Carnegie said. They set up the institutions. I find it quite disturbing when someone distorts history, because you cannot distort the history that we had. Now, this is an important discussion, and I welcome the Freedom Fund's willingness to engage in it. Because for us as black people, it's a very painful history. And you cannot come and stand here and say, nee, ons het dit self gedoen. We were never helped by anyone. The state, through its laws and institutions, did put you all in a much better position. It made sure that you got the land. When you were dispossessed of your land, it was the state that gave you the land. And today, black people do not have the land, and it is the state that must help them to get that land. So I do look forward to us engaging in this discussion, because we should not distort history, but we should not rewrite our history. Let us acknowledge that progress has been made through our economic empowerment policies. Let us identify the weaknesses that are there, and let us indeed create a bright future for all our children and grandchildren. You see, the difference between what was done in the past and what is being done today is that today we are saying all South Africans must have opportunities, and all South Africans must have good outcomes, not just a certain group. We welcome Honorable Hadebe's support for the work in the presidency in terms of fulfilling its mandate. We agree that this support indeed brings with it the expectation of accountability, because this is a cornerstone of a responsive government. As we rightly characterize, the presidency is a center of strategic coordination. It is not an implementing department. The presidency does not go around the country to fix roads or fix potholes. The presidency does not deliver clinics or dispense grants. The presidency, and indeed the president, does not try accused persons or put them in orange overalls. The role of the presidency is to ensure that the work of government departments is coordinated and that cabinet decisions and priority programs are implemented. The role of the presidency is to unlock the implementation process that needs to take place. And the role of the presidency is to ensure there is policy coherence across all arms of government and to give strategic direction to departments as they fulfill their respective mandates. Honorable Hadebe, we furthermore agree that South Africans have indeed grown weary of well-crafted plans, well-crafted policies and strategies, and want to see implementation. This is why the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation is tasked with monitoring the implementation of the medium-term development plan that was inaugurated in this 7th administration. We should desist from sweeping statements about accountability lacking in government. The DPME produces a range of public reports. These include annual performance plans, performance monitoring reports on key sectoral outcomes like health, education, frontline service delivery monitoring reports, as well as citizen-based monitoring reports as well. All of these are subjected, as you would know, to parliamentary oversight. These are all regularly looked at, and they are easily accessible as well. They are there for any member of this House, and indeed any South African, to see, to interrogate, and to use, and to hold public representatives to account. So before we stand here in this House and make generalizations about lack of accountability on the part of government, let us take time to read, and let us read the documents that are easily available and that are put before us. In line with its coordinating role, the presidency is also tasked with mobilizing support from all social partners for government's programs of action. As the 7th administration and as the GNU partners, we have been firm in our commitment to working with social partners in pursuit of inclusive growth and job creation. Yesterday, the Honorable Gama delivered a somewhat misguided view of the collaboration between government and business. Achieving inclusive and sustainable growth that creates jobs cannot be done without active cooperation with various role players, be they unions, be they business, and be they community-based organizations. And we work with them all. If we have to tackle the AIDS problem, we cannot do it alone as government. We have to work with community-based organizations. And if we have to address the challenges that we're facing in our logistics, we have to work with those who use them. Data produced by Stats SA shows that the private sector accounts for more than 73% of all people who are employed in our country. So in effect, 75% or so of our economy is in the hands of the private sector. Government has to play its coordinating role, its regulatory role, and its legislative role as well. So government's role in part is to create an enabling environment for job creation and for new businesses to thrive, for new factories to be established. The private sector is therefore a critical driver for job creation. Yes, there may well be a temptation to wish them away, but our economic structure is such that they exist. They are here, and we've got to work with them. And we've got to make sure that we attract investment so that jobs can be created. Turning our economy around necessitates that we address and overcome the various obstacles to growth and investment. be they regulatory.
Mr. President, I'm
And-
sorry, there's a point of order. Can you take a seat? Honorable member, what's the point of order?
Thank you, the Speaker. Rule 92, Honorable Speaker, I see, I rise on the point of order that the honourable member is misleading the House, and I request that he withdraw the statement or provide substantiation in terms of that the land used to belong to the Europeans in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, honorable member, I don't think that was the statement made, but we can look at Hansard and come back, but that's not the way I understood as a presiding officer what the president said. Honorable President, you can proceed.
At the height of the load shedding crisis, Honorable Speaker, and we invited business as well as other social partners to come on board to support the work of the National Electricity Crisis Committee that we had set up. Through our partnership with business, the private sector committed skills which they had in abundance, resources, and operational support towards stabilizing our electricity supply. So we worked with them, and we've also been able to unlock investment in clean and renewable energy resources and are continuing to lay the ground for an energy secure future. And this we were able to do with working with our partners. This has taken place under the leadership of the Presidency. Through partnerships, we have made noteworthy progress in driving much-needed economic reforms, in reducing the bottlenecks in the energy and logistics sectors, and driving job creation initiatives, partnership with the private sector. The Northern Cape today boasts of having had enormous investments in renewable energy projects, largely because of the cooperation that we have had and continue to have with the private sector. These partnerships are laying the foundation for a more inclusive economy that benefits all South Africans. It was Honorable Sangoni yesterday who even referred to China, to what Deng Xiaoping said in 1978 or so, when China started turning around. He said, we able the Constitution empowers the President with executive powers to establish commissions of inquiry into any matter of public concern. Yesterday, the Honorable Noluchungu sought to discredit the processes around commissions of inquiry, calling them a waste of money and a waste of time. But as we have demonstrated, such processes can have a profound impact. Think about the revitalization of SARS, the ongoing reform that is going on in our security, state security apparatus, the millions of rands that we have recovered in money and assets that have been seized by our law enforcement authorities in pursuit of those who were implicated in whole-scale state capture. I said yesterday, and I will repeat again, as a country that is committed to the rule of law, the procedural fairness to transparency, we will ensure that the allegations made around corruption in the upper echelons of South Africa Police Service will be fully ventilated in the Commission of Inquiry process. We agree with Honorable Zibi that we cannot squander the enduring belief of South Africans in our democracy, and that this same democracy must deliver accountability, development, and opportunity. This accountability means that all those who are responsible for imperiling the democracy through nefarious acts should face justice. The presidency, together with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, plays a central role in advancing our country's foreign policy and also ensures our nation's strategic interests are safeguarded. Through our participation in multilateral platforms, the presidency articulates and advocates for the advancement of the African agenda and the OAU, or the AU's rather, Agenda 2063. This we do so that we can achieve a just world order. As the Honorable Lamula said yesterday, South Africa is an advocate for the interests of the Global South, in line with our commitment to principled solidarity. That is why the Presidency actively participates in international fora on the most pressing issues facing developing countries, such as rising debt burdens, mobilizing funding for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, and calling on advanced economies to meet their obligations to support vulnerable countries to raise their own ambition of the climate action. So we cannot, in all honesty, honorable members, argue, as some members did yesterday, that participation in these important platforms is a waste of time. Like any other country in the world, a presidency is the face of the country's foreign policy. The presidency is on the ground engaging also with South Africans and advancing the constitutional imperative of participatory democracy. Through the presidential imbizos that we hold, for example, we are providing a platform for our citizens to engage with their leaders. And when we go with a phalanx of cabinet ministers and deputy cabinet ministers. We're providing an opportunity for our people to articulate their most pressing issues at a local, regional level, so that we can hold elected officials accountable for service delivery. We regard this as a critical tool for taking government to the people, and they also fall within the ambit of Budget 1. The district development model that we introduce is more than a way of reorganizing local government. It should become and is becoming an operating philosophy for all spheres of government, where national, provincial, and local government cooperate and collaborate to drive development. The overall well-being of our citizens is and will be enhanced. The DDM, as we call it, enhances efficiency by having the three spheres of government aligning when it comes to planning, budgeting, and implementation to reduce fragmentation, duplication, wastage across government. But its strength is also in being able to mobilize other role players in society. And we have seen this being played out in a number of areas in our country already. And in eThekwini, we have seen the district development model taking full effect, where we have been able to bring together business, labor, community-based organizations, government at both national level, provincial level, and at local level to work together to turn the fortunes of eThekwini around. During the 7th administration, the presidency embarked on a series of engagements with provincial executives on their strategic development priorities and the support required from national government, focusing on the comparative advantages and economic strengths of each province. National and provincial governments will work together to align development priorities and cooperate in the best interests of our people. Vote 1, honorable members, is a budget that is, in a number of ways, exceptional. This is not a budget for the implementation of service delivery, as is the case with other government departments. Rather, this is a budget that will enable coordination, strategic direction, oversight across all departments of government. These are functions that are key to the state functioning effectively. As the apex of government, the presidency ensures that there is alignment that the national priorities are implemented and that urgent interventions are implemented in times of crisis, as we have seen during the load shedding crisis that we had, and as we saw during COVID-19 challenges that we had as a country. A vote in support of this budget is about strengthening the nerve center of government itself. Now, Honorable Peterson, hearing you speak, you are here. Hearing you speak yesterday filled me with immeasurable pride. You exuded a great deal of confidence, but more than that, you exuded conviction. Your words standing here were powerful. They were filled with conviction and what you stand for. And at your tender age, you embody the future of this country. You are the voice, Honorable Peterson, not just of your community and constituents, but of the millions of young South Africans who, even amongst our many challenges, are able to see progress, who continue to believe that there is a place in the sun for all of us, and who continue to have that hope. Now, I thank you for that. Young people who dare to invent the future, as the Honorable Mkutu put it yesterday. Nobody in this House disagrees that the challenges we face as a country are immense. Nobody can disagree that we are not nearly as far along the road to the shared future that we all want to see. And yet, who do we serve with our malcontents, our laments, and our defeatism? Do we want to break or do we want to build? As we journey to the national dialogue, where we will face the hard truths and forge a common brighter future, let us take courage from the words of this young patriot who said yesterday that this budget should be a turning point, where words become actions, where plans become progress, where South Africa truly becomes a nation that works for its people. But more importantly, where all of us as public representatives become the true public representatives of our people, advancing the interests of all South Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Order, honorable members. Honorable Sihle Asgaqit. Honorable members, order, Honorable Makaula. Today you have decided to run a long commentary. Maybe we will visit the speaker's boardroom again. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I just want to indicate to you that there are matters I've referred to the Rules Committee. Those relate to the language and the phrases that yesterday were raised by various members that might require us to look at as different parties. Secondly, we also noted the concerns that were raised by other members about some of the rulings that as presiding officers rather might have made. Again, I just want to assure members that we would look at those and we'll come back to this House. We do this because we want to make sure that indeed the way in which we conduct our business does enable us to represent our people better, as well as respecting this House, which is the House that deals with important issues. I want to say after this, honorable member serving in the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, we are supposed to go to your meeting to finish your business. And I also hope that the committees on police and justice and constitutional development would also be finding space to meet in order for you to come back, as you had been asked by the Speaker, to look at the matters that were raised and come back to this House before we rise on how you advise the House to proceed with those matters. Honorable Makaula, you are not yet going home. There is lots of work that we have to do. This was the response by the President on Budget Vote 1, not the end of the business of Parliament, except that it brings the business of today here on this budget to an end. But committees that must meet must continue to meet. I'll now ask members to stand and allow the presiding officer to leave the chamber.